Howdy, howdy, howdy. Everybody have a good weekend. How's it going, iPhone? Doing all right here. Been a long week, but weekend, I guess. It feels like it was a three or 4 day weekend. I don't know why. Probably because I didn't do this thing last week. I'm sorry for my sparse uh attendance, I guess. Had some other things going on. I hope to be a bit more consistent going forward. So we'll see. 9 people. Yeah, right. It is gorgeous out. We spent all weekend enjoying the outdoors, and we spent most of today enjoying the outdoors. Uh, but yes, I mean, I live in Minnesota, and it hasn't been 80 since February. So, but I assume winter's over at this point, given the weather and an El Nino. Hello, 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 Kevin's iPhone. Yeah, I got in the 70s here too. Not bad. Very nice. There's some more people. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the market scan. I am a Joe named Joe. This is where we go over the indexes, the main tickers of the market, try and ascertain a directional bias for the week. We do have some rather large geopolitical issues going on right now, which will probably skew whatever bias we come up with or I come up with. Just because, you know what, war can tend to make things go awry. You know, I will say. Uh, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Read the disclaimer at onlyoptionstrades.com. There's a disclaimer there somewhere on that website. You're welcome, Christina. I appreciate you stopping in tonight, coming to hang out. Figure maybe we can find something here. Also, if you have any tickers you'd like me to check out, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will add them to the list, and we will get to them at the end. I'm going to go grab a cup of water, and I'll be right back. Chicken in the oven. 350. 25 minutes. What's everyone's favorite candy? I've uh I've got a sweet tooth for Smarties. Smarties are delicious to me. Swedish fish, fantastic, Nando. I don't think they do attack. I don't think they affect what's going on. And if we look at the main indexes right now for futures, I mean, it dropped yesterday on the or Friday on the prospect of war, but it hasn't. It didn't dump out. It didn't even gap down. As a matter of fact, it moved up. So peanut M&Ms are delicious. They are my favorite M&M on the planet. Thank you. Not bad for 8 indicators, right? Wonder how many of them I'm using right now. Probably not. Just 3. What's up, Eugenio? You know, the older I get, Nando, the easier it is to see white. And the black ones we're getting hard to see. So it's just a lot easier to white. If I use white Thinkorswim or Weeble or any of the other ones, um, it's not as good, but TradingView definitely. I do enjoy the bright skin. You make it pink. All right, let's go. Actually, I think white's better on my eyes. So Spy making that nice long trek up, breaking to the side, and now down out of this channel here. More BS in the Middle East. Make the markets go skydive. No, I don't think it's going to make it go skydiving down. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to make it go up because war is profitable. And our companies are very good at making things go boom. So Spy ended up on the weekly chart here. This was the first time since October that Spy has put in 2 consecutive red weeks, and now we've got a price shift to the downside. So we might dip a little bit, but I think ultimately we might just continue going right back up to where we were. I don't think a war in the Middle East is going to affect our markets much, other than the fact that Lockheed Martin is going to put up some much better earnings than a lot of people expected. And probably cybersecurity companies will be ones to keep an eye out on as well. I'm guessing that they will probably get some nods. But price action wise here, we did clear out the last 3 weeks of lows. I think we might want to push down a little bit more. We do have a volume imbalance here from the weekly. Volume imbalance being the difference between this body's candle's high and this body's candle's low. It creates a gap there. The bodies don't overlap. It's considered a volume imbalance. So I would keep an eye on that. We're also in one right now for right here, but we pretty much violated that. Let's take a look at the 3-monther. I mean, very small move down in comparison on the 3-month, on the quarterly, which we just ended up putting in not too long ago. So we will take a look at the daily. It wouldn't surprise me again if we want to come down, if it wants to come down to this area and move sideways for a little bit. I would not put it past to just move sideways above 500, maybe for I don't know, maybe a week or so. But Lockheed calls, we ball. If you've noticed the ridiculousness in Lockheed's chart, I'll jump over to that here. I do say we a lot. Really, it's just me. Not like you guys are controlling my charts here. But if I go into a 5-minute chart, I don't know if you can see it super well, but volume was picking up here in the middle of the day on Lockheed on both of these days. And here it ran 1.89% intraday off of the news of a potential war. Here we got the huge buy up and price action. Not a lot of volume, but I mean, it went from 439 all the way up to 451 by the open. So I think buyers are definitely stepping in on Lockheed. I was looking at a short, but war kind of changes that. We're on the upside of this gap now, and we're holding up here. So I think with Lockheed this might be a really good spot to take longs and shoot for this previous high right here, and then adjust my stop to be at least a 2-to-1, but 3-to-1 preferably, which will put us near the bottom of that gap. Pelosi's Pan W finally gonna boom? Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes she knows a bit more than we do, you know? When I see a move like that in pre-market on low volume, is that a move harder to hold on the new run? No. To me, that says that they need to move the market up to find what they're looking for. So either you've got like market makers that are short and they need to find the longs, or they're long and they need to find the shorts. So they move the market to where they need to go in order to fulfill those orders. What I'm thinking is going to be happening is if they do end up going to war, Lockheed's gonna, they make things that go boom. So does Boeing, but Boeing just keeps having massive issues and they're just tanking completely. They are not stopping. I think they want at least sub 170, and I wouldn't mind seeing them around 163, 164 for Boeing down at the bottom of this broadening formation and in this gap here on which I do believe is the monthly. Yes. No, not the monthly, but this is the gap for the monthly, which is where it's pushing into right now. So I wouldn't mind taking along on Boeing, maybe down like around 164, 165, and shoot back up to this monthly gap here. That might be more of a shares play for some people. Um, Boeing's options can get a little pricey given their current issues right now, but pretty sound technical move. Swept the lows, swept the highs, swept the lows, ran it up, and then came down. Basically, chopped in the gap, continued down, and now it's moving back down to this gap here. So, I think we have a little bit more downside for Boeing, but when it gets down here, I'd look for a bounce. Sorry, sidetrack over to the Qs. See, here's why I think we're going to be moving sideways on SPY because we're moving sideways on the Qs right now. If I compare these two side by side, there was more of a knee jerk reaction down on SPY than there was on the Qs. The Qs are ranged still. They haven't broken out to the upside or the downside. But SPY kind of decided to take more of a big move down. And if I see what the diamonds look like, the diamonds took a big move down too. But I think they're going to go long, especially with the prospect of war. Uh, the Dow Jones has some very big companies in it that are multinational companies. So something to keep an eye on there. This could be a really nice dip buy for the Dow Jones coming in right here. Tech's still leading the way on this. Tech is still holding up in the Qs, just ranging moving sideways. I do like the current trade that I have that I was looking into here for the diamonds. At the breakaway gap, the measuring gap. We did get an exhaustion gap here, but we haven't hit price target yet on the monthly. And so I'm expecting a bit more of a push. I think it needs to come down and reload before going back up. I don't know. Someone asked what the general trend. I just realized it was a direct message, which is why that I don't know. Probably seems a bit out of place. But what's the general trend for tech during war? I honestly don't know. Um, yeah, I don't think I've. I mean, no significant wars um, have really broken out in the last like 5, 6 years that I've been trading for. So, unless you want to count the economic war with China and COVID, but I would assume tech would probably be able to hold its own, but we'll see. I think the Dow Jones is going to be where we find the better dip buy. So that's the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, and the Dow Jones. Let's check IWM and small caps coming back down here. Really nice broadening formation uh, on IWM. Price is going up here. Wouldn't surprise me if price wanted to come back down and come into this area. I really have been looking for a short on IWM. I don't think it looked for a while there like small caps are going to make their move, but um, it's really hard to say in my opinion right now. I'm still looking for that short. I'm still short on IWM. I want to see it come all the way back down here to 161, especially since it couldn't break that previous high. So small caps, I'm still feeling bearish on small caps. Flipping over to the big boys. Coin pulling into the breakaway gap here on the breakdown from the monthly chart. This is really what I wanted to see. And the short, I want to see it come back down to 31. Bitcoin right now, I believe, is trying to build itself back up after the drops. So Bitcoin knew about this on Friday, and that's when it got the big drop here, and then the drop overnight on Saturday. And now it just is basically chilling and now trying to break to the upside. So I think we're probably going to see a nice gap down on coin and most of uh, our big Bitcoin stocks, Riot, Mara. Well, probably not so much Mara and Riot actually. Looking at these monthly charts, like they're pretty beat up and they're just holding down here, not really doing much of anything. That's a nice breaker, but we didn't sweep liquidity up here, so this feels like it might want to be targeting these lows down here on Riot. And that looks like It looks like a hot mess ready to dump down to dollar penny stock, in my opinion, on Riot. Let's see. My list got a little messed up here, but I will do my best. Goldman break to the upside of this broadening formation and then the immediate rejection and the huge push down. I think we're about ready to see the down push in financials. Usually I go to my Morgan Stanley next. Also couldn't get the breakout there, getting the push down. XLF, big pullback there uh, at that line. Was that on the weekly? Woo, daily. Anyway, they basically look like they're in a free fall right now. It's a breakaway on the weekly there. I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. It wasn't a breakaway on the weekly. That must have been something else I was watching. But I'm looking for financials to come down here. They look like they want to come down. Looking at JPM, that big move down there. Volume increasing on the way down, coming back. Hit the price target on that monthly setup that we had been watching. The breakaway, this middle gap here would be the measuring, then the exhaustion. Hit the price target, came right back down. Usually after it breaks that price target, I'd like to see it like move sideways here for continuation, but it's currently not moving sideways. It's currently coming right back down in the exhaustion gap. So right now, if price comes back down here and hits these October lows, I'd actually look for it to do something like that. Or the October highs. Apologies. So that's what I'd be looking at on JPM. I would look for the short after it breaks through this gap and then tests it again. So this would be the short that I'd be looking at. Bank of America, not quite up there. It hasn't gotten that liquidity. Tried to break to the upside, pulling back with the rest of financials. The nice thing about Bank of America, though, is while we're coming down with volume increasing, it's still not nearly as much as the volume that pushed it out of this trend of this. Oh, excuse me, of this channel. So we got all this volume here that pushed it out in February. And now it's pulling back with volume increasing, but not quite taking out the volume that pushed it out here. So I'd be looking at it for a possible bounce on Bank of America, but it's also one of those stocks that's going to go with the rest of the market. So if the rest of financials decides to dip, Bank of America is most likely going to do it as well. SPX SPY, again, I'm looking for basically some sideways movement here. I would like to see it bounce, but I'm looking for it to pull back into this gap right here around 508. I really think he wants to come down here and test that volume imbalance again and then bounce. All right, we'll get into some tech companies. Meta has just broken out of the range, came back down, retested it, and is pushing up. I think Meta wants to continue going up. And actually, I am going to check here. Ooh, that is really bright. I'm sorry. Go away. Yes, just do it. Okay. These Meta calls, Meta 950s here. Ooh. Okay, now I'm going to change my tune on that Meta because this person had been making a ton of money rolling Meta calls. They've been doing it for the last year, and there was 95,000 volume on 100,000 OI on these 950 calls for June. It looks like they may have rolled them out again. Let's take a look. 95 contracts all at once. Yep, they rolled them out again. So they took profit on the 950s. This all started with $10 million, by the way. And they've turned it into 266 million. But it looks like they're rolling out of the 950s and they're rolling out to the 1030s now. So I'm going to put 1030s on my list. And yeah, that very much looks like, yep. So they kept 80,000 or 60,000 of it. They kept 60,000 of it and rolled it out. What are you doing? You're not really. Here we go. So that is interesting to me. Okay. So I'm still long on Meta then. I'm still long on Meta. And those are 1030 calls, is that what it said? Yeah, Meta 1030 calls for 618 still. So 618.26. So they want it. They want it, man. So I'd be long Meta. Might even be able advantageous of you to grab a few shares. Might grab a few more shares. We'll see. Netflix hasn't been able to get the push through that gap. Two rejections there. Well, the push in and then the rejection out. Watching that for a big pullback. I think Netflix wants to pull back below 600. So that's something that I'll be watching there. Nvidia getting the pullback, got the bounce right at that volume imbalance there on the weekly. There's this difference between these candled bodies. That's where it got the bounce and then the buy up. That's a big buy up right there. So I would actually be looking for it to cross last week's high for a run at 920. That's what that looks like on a smaller time frame. Take a look at the 4 hour and see if I can find like an order block or something in here. Right here. It's a nice order block. We swept these highs right here. If you're following, this previous high right here, we took it. Now we're coming back down into this order block. I wouldn't mind taking a long and pushing it for a push up to around 920. That would be a nice day trade. So when it comes down to around 870 or so, I would look at probably 920 contracts and see what they are. And if they're within my risk tolerance, that would be something that I might want to swing. Other semiconductors, Intel, not doing so well. Not doing so well there on the Intels. Coming all the way back down to that channel that it broke out of and then breaking to the downside. Pretty solid sell volume here. I assume Intel is going to continue down. At this point, looking at this, even though they got that big contract, it doesn't seem like the market cares. Let's see what other semis are doing. AMD pulling back right to this neckline. It wouldn't surprise me if it wanted to put in something like this. So I'd keep an eye on AMD for a push up into about 187. And then I'd look for maybe a rejection there. And then the continuation to the downside, because that looks like it could be a nice move to the downside. Walmart, I'm waiting for it to come down below 58. That is the trade I'm looking for right now. I want it to roll down into this gap. And take the long when it comes down into this gap. So below 58 is what I'm looking for on Walmart. I've got my alerts set, waiting for that to go. And then this is something. So Walmart has put in what's going on here? Walmart has like some of the longest dividends that I've seen. They've gone, I think, what, 20 some years without missing a dividend. It might be something you want to. It might be something that I would look into shares on. And not that I'm a huge dividend person, I don't. I honestly think dividends are kind of a waste of time in the long run, or in the short run, actually, because they don't pay out enough. But I like the fact that I'm getting free money, and then I would just roll that into more Walmart shares. So below 58, between 58 and 57. Oh, I'm looking for a long up to the 64 area on Walmart. So just the left and the right shoulder there in Pata on AMD, or just the left shoulder and the head um, on a weekly here. So there's no right shoulder yet, but it's at that area where we're at previous all-time highs where it bounced before. It's got a gap here. It wouldn't surprise me if it wants to push back up into 185. And then a trade down to, yeah, basically 116. So if it wants to do it now, I would look for a large move below 162.75 with a big body candle like this on the weekly, and then look for a bounce back into that gap for continuation to the downside. So it looks something like big move down, bounce back, and then the move down. And that's where I would take my short for the move to 116. Berkby. Berkeby. Ranging right now on the weekly. Right above that gap. So, depending on how what kind of a trader one is, uh, one could look at a bounce in this area for a bounce back to the top of the range with a short, granny stop right below this volume imbalance here. Or you could wait for it to break out to the downside below this gap or below the range and then retest it and then take your short there. Or down, move to the next gap. Adjust your stop accordingly. But right now it looks like it's ranged on the weekly. And if I look at the daily, yeah, I mean, it's going to be showing the same thing. It's got that exhaustion gap right there. Pretty simple. Right. Yeah. The thing about Burke B is that they've got a ton of money behind them. So uh, they um, they can keep going. So I'd look for it to range and then break the range. I would personally wait for it to break the range uh, as opposed to trading the range, but that's just my personal. I would rather trade the breakout than the range. One could certainly trade the range too. It's all about personal preference there. It has nothing to do with what's better or what's not. Disney breakout. It still wants 126, I think. I wouldn't mind taking along here to 126. I think it wants to reach up there. That's the longer term trade I think we're watching, right? Or did it already fulfill? Oh, it already fulfilled. Never mind. This was the trade I was watching here to 111. And now basically I'd be looking for it to range up here. Put in that triangle from a few weeks ago. Broke to the upside, double topped, pulling back down, market structure shift. So actually, I mean, I would look for this to pull back, maybe bounce a little bit, and then come back down. I actually look for it to return to around 111 on Disney. Roku is just sitting down here, doing a whole lot of nothing. Broke to the downside of the range, popped back up, broke back to the downside of the range. Uh, there's nothing really here that I would want to take a trade on for Roku right now. Never did get the extension up to the price target. Gave it an exhaustion gap and then completely turned around, pulled back into that exhaustion gap and then dumped hardcore. So nothing really right now that I'd be interested in taking on Roku. So I'll just move on from that. Cisco back to some semis here, holding that trend line a little bit. Big push down there last week. Pushed all the way up to 50 and then got a push down to 48 and a half. Feeling kind of bearish to me there. What was that daily like? I mean, nothing too crazy. Not really a trade I'd be looking at on Cisco either. Wait for something more to happen there. Maybe a break to the downside of that trend for a move to 45, but eh, yeah, nothing really there that I'd rather see. Google pushing up. I really expected it to bounce into this gap. It ripped below it and then ripped straight up to the top side. Not really ranging the way I thought it was going to do, and it broke out. So it hit new all-time highs. I mean, I would expect Google to continue up. That was a nice move. It looks like it's going to make another move right here. Let's take a look at the daily. Daily's kind of crappy. Monthly. Oops. Yeah. I mean, I'd look for it to continue moving up right now, but Apple break to the downside, pulling back into that order block on the weekly and got the big buy up. Um, this one, we haven't quite gotten that, so I'll go ahead and delete that. That order block that I had on my chart from a few weeks ago was a big one there. 2 months in a row we bounced there, but it got the big buy up there. Buyers showed up pretty hard at 168. Got the big push up on the daily with a nice gap right here. I'd call that a breakaway gap, sure. I would look for it to push up and give me a measuring gap. I want to see, so I want to see it stay above 176 essentially. I want to see it stay above 176 and continue pushing up maybe into, whatever, 180, whatever it's going to push up to. So I'd want to see it stay above 176 there. And take a wrong one. It'd take a long. If it stays above 176, if we open and it's like down here around 174, that would invalidate this trade idea. But if it's going to open around 176, I would definitely look for a nice push up from new highs over Friday's highs. I'd keep a stop maybe at the 1 hour there. 1 hour 20 EMA. Not a bad day trade there. I'd look for calls on Apple at open, depending on where it is. If it's at 176, I would look for calls at open. If it's below 175, I would just look for something else. Plantair. Looks like it did put in that shoulder, and now it's coming down. Retested that neckline, gapped down, and now it's just kind of ranging here inside this measuring gap from the weekly. I'm expecting this thing to come down to 20. It would make sense for it to come to 20. So if you're looking for a trade on that, let's take a look at the hourly. Like it's right at the bottom of this range. Ideally, the trade would have been on Friday when it pumped to the top of the range to take a short there. But one could wait for it to break through this candle right, this wick right here. Break through that wick to the downside for a move down into the 20s. But that's what I'd look at for Planetaire. Lulu. Poopers. Puts. Puts. Was looking at this one. It puts at least down to like 270 or 280. I think it's going to come down to this area and reload where it's bounced here a few times. But Lulu, I think, is going to be pulling back. And I was looking at their ER and their sheets. They still make decent margins on this thing, but there was some citing of um, basically price competition from or pricing from their competition. Basically, their competition is going to start making it lowering their prices to get people in. You know, so Lulu, that's why I took that big dive right on the good earnings, huge gap down, and now it's just bleeding out. I definitely think it wants to continue down in the 270s. But that is mine. Let's take a look at Alta too. I believe pulled back. Yep, Alta big pullback on that one. These luxury brands are really pulling down. Abercrombie also pulling back there below that low with the retest. I think this wants to come down to around 100. So you could probably get a $10 move on Abercrombie this week as well. XLE, that is a very large bearish candle on the daily. Not so much a bearish candle on the weekly though. So the daily, I'd look for maybe a pullback in the 94s. What is what's oil doing? Oil getting, that's right, getting the break out of this big flag here. And then it's 2 inside weeks so far. Well, this is this current week here. Taking a look at the highs here. So it actually did break the previous week's high. I would look for it to continue up. It's at the bottom of this channel for the breakout. I'd look for oil to continue up. So looking at XLE, I'd look for XLE to probably continue up as well. Just a little bit of a pullback here and then continuation. Coca-Cola breaking to the downside of that range. This, I think it wants, let's see, taking a look at the chart here on the weekly. We have the breakout to the upside and then the pullback. The breakout to the upside and then the pullback. But it never gave like a trend bar gap on these push ups. And then it got the immediate pullback. But now we do have this one right here. So now we got price moving with enough force coming down, pushing it to the downside of this gap. I mean, I think it's looking at maybe 56s. This order block right here. Right around these 56 area. Could either wait for a pull into this gap at 59.60 for a push down, or it could just dump out right away. You look at the daily. Yeah. 57 would probably be a better number. Come and get these lows. 1 hour. Yeah. So you'd already tried that gap right here. Right there. Got rejected. So I would think it's going to continue down to the 57s. Try and take out these lows right here. Oops. All right. And Tesla. Tesla, I'm looking for a bounce. I really like longs down here. It's at the bottom of this channel. Every channel is a flag. Every flag is a possible continuation. So we're down here. Every time it's come down into this area, it's bounced out, bounced out, bounced out, bounced out, bounced out. So, it's 220s, 230s are probably relatively cheap with some time on them. I do not have an options table sitting in front of me, but uh, I wouldn't mind maybe taking something like that. When I say cheap, I mean cheap for Tesla. So they're probably around, guessing 200 on those. Now I'm curious. I'm going to pull up a options table to see what Tesla 220s, 230s are at. Barky bark bark bark. So let's get maybe June 21st. 220s are right around 268. Not bad. Decent amount of open interest at 10,000. Give some wiggle room to get out. Maybe go to June 21st. Yeah, that was the one I just looked at. Come on, Joe. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't take May 17th. That's not enough time. I would really like some more time on a swing on Tesla like that. So I'd definitely be, I would look at June or July's and I look at 220, 230s. Can make uh, a nice little trade there coming out of that push up. Anybody have any other tickers you'd like me to look at? Amazon, new all time highs. I think it still wants 200. It literally just did Tesla, bro. Oh, they have earnings. Yeah. I mean, and they're still, I think, the leading EV company, you know. Uh, Amazon, I think, wants new all time highs. Zom, same with oil, breaking out. Uh, Finish that long there. I think it wants maybe a little bit of a pullback here, but I think it's going to follow oil and then continue pushing up. Lockheed, I'm going to be bullish on Lockheed right now. This is a great spot. This gap right here, right where it bounced at that 50 line, pushing back up to the upside. Uh, and I think it wants this previous high. It might even want to go as high as up here. But again, if there's war breaking out, Lockheed is your number one company for things that go boom. So, and they have earnings coming up. We have new earnings season starting. Things are going to get fun. Volatility is going to create some cash. So I'm long on Lockheed. PayPal, uh, garbage can. Uh, I know they're big in the world, but I just don't see it in the chart. Yeah. Uh, Look for a double top here and then a push down, maybe into the 50s. But I'm not a big PayPal fan. Sorry. Square got that push to the downside, completed that trade, then ran it back. Really nice. Taking out these highs. I was kind of sitting here in this gap. Bounced out of there twice. As far as a trade right now, I mean, I'm not really seeing anything that I'd like to take. Maybe like a short into this gap right here if it pushes in there. But it's feeling pretty bearish to me. Um, Back here. I mean, yeah, it's in this area. Basically back in the range it was in before it broke all the way up to 280. Now it's coming back down to here. There's other companies that did this too, like Plug. That's back in this area. Ripped up to the 70s, came back down. FCell, same thing. So huge dump for a move. Yep. Apple, Apple, Apple. Apple, the bear. In my opinion, the bulls stepped in. Uh, they're building Apple up. They got the push back up above the gap, retested it, big push up again. I think it wants to continue moving up. This pink line on here is the hourly 20 EMA. So it's the EMA on the hourly chart, but it's just on my 5 minute chart. See, it tends to be a nice gauge to look for bounce points. So Apple, in my opinion, very much in an uptrend since Thursday. Got a nice big push out of there. Bulls stepped in, bounced the gap, pushed it back up. I think it wants to continue up. So there's a trade that I'd be looking at. Entry around 176 for a push up to 180 is the trade that I'd like on that. Stop around 175. And you can trade whichever contract meets into your. Why is my phone screen on? There's nothing going on. Crazy. But it does look like we got a breakaway gap here on the daily. I would like to see a push up and continue moving up into that 180 right there. Microsoft. I didn't get Microsoft. Microsoft is ranging, and it's taking out my stop a couple times there. So we're getting a range out of the range now. Woo! So it ranged here, pushed to the upside, and now it's ranging up here. Feels like it wants to make a push into 440. But that's me. Tech feeling very ranged as well. So mirroring that, if it can get a break over this March 21st high, I think it wants to push into 440. And I think that's it. Looking for a long on NVIDIA. Watching AMD for possible short. Oh, Google, I think, wants to continue up. If you're into penny stocks, there's the stock, the TMC. It's an interesting stock. Some volume's been picking up here since March. This company found, so apparently through all the long periods of time in the ocean, all the carbon and everything else builds into the rocks on the bottom of the ocean. And this company found out that if they go down there, they get all the rocks, they pull them up, they can use like 99% of the rock to make batteries for cars. And they've been mining a lot of them lately. So this could be a nice speculative stock to keep an eye on. It does have, up here possible SPAC in 2021 and then dumped out. But nice speculative company if you're into that sort of thing. I like it. I like the stock. MU, rippity dippity doo. That one was a sleeping giant, man. I don't remember if I said it was a sleeping giant or not back here at this triangle or when it broke out, but it was not anywhere near NVIDIA levels, and now it's going rippity up. So, Baba, I don't like Baba. I think it's going to stay down here. I don't think it's going anywhere. Beyond Meat, also, don't think it's going anywhere. Even with that big buy up there, no. I think that's going to be a penny stock. ARM. I really like ARM. I really, really like ARM, but I'm starting to lose faith, man. Starting to lose faith. I really like the company. Got some shares. I want to see it back above 150, but I don't know if it's going to get there. Got that whole lockout thing coming. People can dump their share. I don't know if they want to dump their shares, though. I really don't. So keeps bouncing out of that order block every time it hits it. Nice little moves there. Little $6 moves. Not too shabby. What else we got? Anything? Eton. Crap company. Garbage. Probably going to get bought out at some point. I like D-Dog a lot. Check out the rest of the cybersecurity companies. Intraday levels on Nvidia for fun. This order block here, so you could call it 887. I'd look for a long out of back up to 908. Intraday could happen. Intraday could take a day or two. Tesla, I'm bullish on. I'd look at 220 swings for June or July, maybe 230s. Starbucks, I don't like Starbucks as a company. I think they're garbage, and I think they continue to be garbage, and they continue to go down. Nike, I don't think Nike's a garbage company. I just think they're in a position where a lot of luxury brands are not getting uh, the money that they thought they were going to get because they're starting to compete price wise. I think a Nike is probably going to fall into that same level. So I would look at probably Nike sub 80s soon. I think it wants to push down out of there. And then Nando's VRT that I have a single share in. It's just chopping along, man. Look at that. So either VRT is going to be a sleeping giant or it's going to be a huge dumpster fire. I'm not quite sure yet. I need to know what Nando's Venmo is so I can send him a bill. This is the wrong way. All right. Well, if that's it, I bid you all adieu. You are welcome, Jen. If you ever have any questions, feel free to hit us up in the Discord. You can at me. I'm around throughout the day. Stay at home dad. So I will do my best to answer questions as they pop up. You can send me a message to SMCI. And it's sitting bearish right now. I would look for a break of that trend line still. Hasn't broken it yet. So probably around 1,000. I don't know if there's any notable flow for it coming through yet. What did we get on Friday? Looks like they were flipping 900s and picked up 1,000 calls the day before. Yeah, not much I'm really seeing there. So I would wait for it to break that trend line, in my opinion. Come out of here and see if it goes up. As far as when doing it before or after earnings there, Chen, that's up to you and your risk. If it's something you want to hold through, uh, I think it's probably going to get a run up into earnings. So one could maybe look at the 220s and grab a few and get the run up if it does run up. But at that point, do you take your profits or do you risk it for the biscuit? That's I can't answer that question for you. I honestly can't. That's if it's something that you feel you are willing to hold through, then go for it. But according to that chart, in my opinion, I like Tesla long here. And Tesla has proven to move considerable dollars if needed. So, all right. If there's nothing else, I hope you all have a very good rest of your Sunday. And feel free to hit us up in the Discord if you have any questions. Go to the website, onlyoptionstrades.com. Anything else? It's not financial advice. Trading is risky. Yada, yada, yada. All right. You have a great night too, Liam. Thank you for that. I appreciate that comment. Thank you. Good night, all. Take care.